It's the early 19th century and you're a member of the Madagascar military. Your job is to fend off the attempts at colonization by the British and the French, both of whom are aggressively seeking to establish colonies in your home country and subjugate your people. You're a proud patriot and have fought in numerous battles against European armies, emerging victorious each time. But right now, none of that matters because Queen Ranavalona, the Mad Queen of Madagascar, has questioned your loyalty and threatens death, along with that of dozens of other members of the military. But Queen Ranavalona is a fair and just queen. She has arranged for a way that you can prove your loyalty. You simply have to eat 3 raw chicken skins. That's right, no trial, no evidence, no jury. Just eat 3 raw chicken skins and you'll have proven that you're a loyal subject and free to go. You immediately wolf down the first skin, followed by the second, and finally, after a few nauseous gulps, the last. The raw skins slide down your throat covered in slime, and you're getting the urge to vomit. Try as you might, you can't help yourself, and you puke up 2 of the 3 chicken skins on the spot. "Guilty!" the Mad Queen shouts from her seat. You failed her test and have been pronounced a traitorous enemy of the state. The punishment? Death. And all because you failed the Queen's loyalty test. See, the Queen knows that a truly loyal subject would have vomited all 3 skins immediately. Welcome to the court of the Mad Queen of Madagascar, a woman so evil she killed off most of her own subjects. Ranavalona I began life as Ramavo, the daughter of lesser royalty. Her life, however, took a very Cinderella-like turn when her father became aware of a plot to murder the current king and promptly warned his master of it. The conspirators were discovered and the plot foiled, and in his generosity, the king took Ramavo as his adopted daughter and married her to his son and heir to the throne, Radama. In 1810, Radama took the throne and began the age-old Madagascarian tradition of killing potential rivals and dissenters. For Ramavo, though, this included members of her own family, something which no doubt cooled things off quite a bit in the royal bedroom between the king and queen. Ramavo decided that Radama would not be king for long, and that she would just instead rule as queen. While some accounts state that Radama died of syphilis, many believe that Ramavo slowly poisoned her own husband to death. 18 years after taking the throne, Radama died, leaving his oldest sister's son as the next in line for the throne, because the rules of succession are a little weird in monarchies sometimes. Ramavo, however, wouldn't abide by anyone on that throne but herself, and quickly put a plot into action that she'd been carefully cultivating for years. With the support of many wealthy and influential people, Ramavo took the throne and immediately began her own purge of rivals and dissenters. The first to go were the members of her own adopted family, who had a more legitimate claim to the throne thanks to their royal blood. Ramavo, now Queen Ranavalona I, initiated a hunt for every living member of the royal family. This would be the start of the 3 decades of brutal bloodshed, which would end with Queen Ranavalona I named the most murderous woman in history. A strict traditionalist, Queen Ranavalona believed in the old ways of her people, and for her accession ceremony had her naked body anointed with the blood of a freshly slain bull. This would make for a fitting introduction to a woman who would spill the blood of millions. After officially taking the crown, she put the royal family to death in a variety of ways. Rakatube, the son of the late Radama's eldest sister, was speared to death, and in order to not break taboo by shedding royal female blood, his mother was simply locked up and starved to death. The rest of the royal family quickly followed suit, with the women arguably suffering worse fates thanks to the tradition of not shedding royal blood. Rather than a quick execution, they faced weeks of slow starvation in dank prison cells. A staunch anti-European, Ranavalona quickly undid many of the reforms that her husband had initiated in a bid to modernize the nation. European teachers, merchants, and diplomats were expelled from the nation, and trade deals with Britain and France were immediately cancelled. The French took particular offense and dispatched a fleet to remove Ranavalona from power, but the invaders suffered severe bouts of malaria and were left weakened and barely able to fight. Not one to miss a lucky opportunity, Ranavalona dispatched her forces and the French were soundly defeated, their heads placed on stakes along the beach to serve as a warning to future European invaders. With the European military suppressed, the Queen turned her attention to the Christian missionaries present on her island. At first, she had tolerated them, as they educated the people and established cottage industries which fed her coffers. However, in time, Ranavalona grew more and more hostile toward Christianity and banned the conversion of her people to Christianity. She knew that taking direct action against Christian missionaries would incur the wrath of the European powers, and thus she tolerated their presence for a while. Then Ranavalona became enamored with a French sailor who'd washed up ashore on Madagascar and happened to be a brilliant politician and engineer. With his knowledge of metallurgy and munitions, he was given the task of constructing a factory which would manufacture modern rifles and ammunition for the Mad Queen's army. Under his guidance, Madagascar prospered as a military and economic power. Now, with a well-equipped army capable of fending off a large invasion force, the Queen only needed a distraction to take away the attention of the French forces so she could act on the Christian missionaries on her land. She got that in the 1830s as a political upheaval called away much of the French fleet. Christian missionaries were banned from teaching Christianity in schools, and eventually even the practice of religion was outlawed. Many missionaries fled Madagascar, but others remained, spurred on by their convictions. By the mid-1830s, many remaining Christians would be martyred, starting with the murder of 14 Christians who were hung over a ravine with ropes and then had their ropes cut. This was an execution method popular with the Queen and used not just for Christian missionaries. Others subjected to this execution method would be hung over a cliff's edge with ropes and left there without food or water, and their relatives would be forced to watch until at last the ropes frayed and sent the condemned to their death on the rocks below. Ranavalona was heavily inspired by the medieval period's penchant for torture and execution though, and practiced many medieval techniques with gusto. During her reign, dissidents and criminals alike would be dumped into pots of boiling water and oil, or simply tied down with ropes and burned alive, often while family members watched. Others would be buried in coffins or simply thrown into the holes to have dirt shoveled over them. The Queen also embraced the practice of fanompoana, or the use of poor Malagasy who were unable to pay taxes for forced labor. In essence, any poor citizens unable to pay their taxes became slave labor, used to build everything from houses to roads and whatever crazy whim the Queen had on that particular day. Those slaves were typically forced to work far from home, and as the labor was unpaid, they faced slow starvation if they ever tried to return home. As a result, many starved to death or died from the brutal labor conditions. Largely unable to pay her military troops, the Queen instead once more turned to tradition. Military units were given the right to pillage other tribes on the island and would kill, murder, and rape with abandon, often stealing everything that they could carry away with them, including naturally many slaves. This proved popular with the military and understandably was far less so with their subjects. Yet it wasn't just her poor subjects that were at risk from the Queen's madness. As Ranavalona grew older, she grew ever more erratic and unsettled, leading to the infamous Buffalo Hunt of 1845. On pure whim, the Queen suddenly ordered that her entire royal court go on a buffalo hunt, and insisted that each noble had to bring a full retinue of slaves and underlings. The hunting party grew to around 50,000 people, and the Queen ordered that a road be built into the jungle ahead of the hunting party so as to ease its travel. With no advanced planning, the expedition took off with thousands of slaves and laborers struggling to build a road through thick jungle. As the workers hacked their way into thick, malaria-laden jungle and swamps, disease ran rampant, decimating the labor force. Nonetheless, the Queen demanded more labor be found and the work continue. Because the hunting party of 50,000 had taken off with no advanced preparation, there was little food available and even the nobles of her court were not spared death and disease. The hunting party was forced to forage for food or take what they could find from villages they passed, with even the highest nobles paying exuberant prices for simple rice. As the corpses piled up, they were simply tossed into ditches along the road, and the party progressed forward regardless of the human misery. Astonishingly, the buffalo hunt lasted for 16 weeks, with a road leading nowhere built deep into the jungle so that the Queen could travel comfortably. By the end of the expedition, 10,000 men, women, and children were killed, and not a single buffalo was ever shot. Queen Ranavalona's son eventually grew tired of her insanity and hatched a plot alongside his European friends to remove her from power. Her son Rakoto was popular with the people and the soldiers for sparing so many from the Queen's insane tortures and punishment, or making sure that they were fed. Sadly, the plot was discovered by the Queen, and though she spared her son and his European friends, she forced the other conspirators to march through deep, malaria-infested swamps where most succumbed to disease or wildlife. Rakoto would go on to plot against his mother several more times, though none of the plots would succeed. Still, she spared her son, and ultimately after her death from natural causes, he was named king, immediately turning around all of his late mother's insane and cruel practices. Though it's impossible to know for sure, it's estimated that under Queen Ranavalona's rule, anywhere from 50% to 75% of her subjects were executed, starved, or worked to death, or died in clashes with European powers. Queen Ranavalona I is thus officially the most murderous woman in history. Ready for more of the world's greatest evil? Check out who are the most evil serial killers in America, or watch this other video instead.